there was a change in the emotion because now I was faced with open heart surgery, which in any, I understand it and I know it's pretty routine and that we have competent people in Jamaica.
A life spent in service met a moment of stillness when Jamaica's National Security Minister, Horace Chang, underwent heart surgery, an experience now prompting quiet reflection from one of the country's most private leaders. Minister, Jamaicans were concerned when news broke about your hospitalization. How are you feeling now?
I'm feeling very good today, and given the circumstances, I think I've done very well. I was treated very well by my colleagues at the university, and the entire university health ecosystem from the doctors, this intensive care, then of course physiotherapy all went very well. So I have no hesitation saying the University of Hospital in their management of open heart surgery was excellent, and I would see have any hesitation in recommending to anyone. Yeah.
You're known to be a very private individual. What made you decide to speak publicly about this experience?
Um, Interesting number of things. Remember, at the initial stage, of course, they don't want to overexcite the wider public. So a statement was issued in condoms with the consulate with the Prime Minister that indicated they were doing surgery, but elective surgery, which is a very calm and moderate way of indicating you're going to have a medical event. It was elective because they didn't have any symptoms prior to that. There was no the usual things that come with um, heart problems, short of breath, chest pains, incident of that sort. That was fine. I just ran a campaign and successfully ran a campaign which I did a lot of walking. That's my style. Also, so maybe that kept me fit actually, on reflection. So it indicated that I would be out of service for a while because it had come on quite relatively suddenly. I do my, well, let me go back a little bit. I do my regular medical checks, and somewhat nearly 12 years back, I identified that there was some abnormality in my ECG. That's the electrocardiogram, and I attended Dr. Lewis in Montego Bay with my cardiologist, and she has treated me well. Well, she's very good. She treats me, and I see her every 6 months for some time. So I've been following that line. And the advice to anybody who reads this is, if you identify any cardiac problem, not just by electrocardiogram when you do investigation, but mild hypertension, cholesterol, etc., keep your checks. Keep your checks. You don't want to get the surgery. I did mine, and I did get the surgery. But so I've been doing this, and I went for a regular checkup. But in addition to that, I do some other medical checks, and she had actually sent me before to have a review in Cardiac Institute in Toronto, which is one of the best around. They told me the same thing she told me, so I didn't see much point in continuing going there. And she indicated I should do an angiogram after a number of other facts recently. The angiogram showed that a block in one vessel, a partial block, which really meant in today's world stenting. Stenting is where what they call an intervention cardiologist insert a tube, fiber optic tube to one of the vessels, either your forearm or to your leg, get into the heart and open the sleeve in there, which protects your body. It has become very routine, although it sounds exciting and traumatic. But you do it and you rest for an hour and get about the business. Been now routine stuff for maybe the last almost maybe 40 years or so or more. So I figured a bit. So at that point, I did the angiogram early in August. So I went to the campaign. After the campaign, I was still fine. So I kind of relaxed, and Dr. Lewis was let me know I need to get the further inspection done. So I went to Dr. Elliott, who is one of our intervention cardiologists, and he realized that the one partial block was visible was not the only problem. In fact, I had 3 blocks and needed surgery because they could not be stented. that was when there was a change in emotion because now I was faced with open heart surgery, which in any, I understand it and I know it's pretty routine and that we have competent people in Jamaica. And I was not going anywhere to do it. I could have, moved on to any other institute in North America, but ecosystem for major surgery at the university, once you're comfortable with it, professionals is to me more comfortable. When you wake up and you sleep, you know, and you can talk to people, you understand, your family can see, and so forth. It contributes to your treatment, and you know people are around. The whole ecosystem, the country is aware and know where they are. So I decided I had to go there, but just facing up to it was pretty tough. Open heart surgery is maybe the most complex surgery you'll do in Jamaica. One or two other things are there. And you have to be, with Jamaica, when you lock down your heart to work on it, it's like doing it's like you take out the car engine to reboard, and the body left behind. That's technically what you end up with. But I decided I'd do it, and Dr. Irvin, who works with Dr. Elliott, came down and so on and explained to me what the severity of the problem, which was concerning because at that point there was not only was no choice, it was quite severe, but it could be stented. In fact, at which point I just asked, what time could you do it? Give me a couple of days to tell my family and the Prime Minister. And that's when the release went out that we are going to do elective surgery. That indeed it was by routine examination and we're going to do it. But I figure over time I'd have to speak about it because it was going to impair me for some time. And there are a lot of concerns around. And if it went well, people need to know what happened, where I am, and if it did go badly, I've heard before.
Nice.
But that was the rough part of it.
As a medical doctor yourself, did that awareness make the experience easier or more difficult for you?
That's a difficult answer because if you don't know, sometimes ignorance assists you, helps you. I knew full what was going to happen. I didn't do cardiac surgery. I knew exactly what was required. And I had the confidence in my own, in the team, made me relax. But I know it was a high risk situation. So I wouldn't particularly, I said, I wouldn't particularly tense, but it was of concern. you know, it when you go into that kind of business, you have to remember your mortality. That's what's the reality. And of course, coming from where I sit, beside family and friends, of course, I have the government to look at. Beside my colleague in the cabinet, there's the ministry. But thankfully, I have a very capable team in the ministry. We have been there for some years and it has evolved. And Permanent Secretary, Chief of Staff, Commissioner of Police, and other heads of agencies, they are all in a kind of, let's say, a good rhythm. They are working well, they are competent, they're committed, and you find it possible to kind of put the thing in the back of your mind and move on and just face the reality of what's going to happen to you personally. That's really so. That did it. And it kind of went quickly because I had previous general surgery, well, ENT really, where a particular doctor who did my general anesthetic, I said to doctor, is he available? And he was the one to do it. And he had to do it a bit earlier than we planned. But we went in and we spent the day in surgery. We woke up in University Hospital, right? Yeah, and when I was out, I was greeted by a young anesthetist who said, good, Dr. Chang assisting your surgery. Very pleasant, very refreshing. Said in a way that reassured me that nothing wrong had gone, nothing had gone wrong, quite frankly. This young female was professional anesthetist, and she greeted me with a warm smile when I woke up. I must tell you, I couldn't have paid for that anywhere else. It was a Jamaican greeting you with that kind of, I said, it was a command. was welcoming, but that was
so
after that, that was when you, of course, you had to go through the process. It was intensive care, so it was not. It was this pain was there still, but it went well. I could sense it went well. As a physician, that told me.
So was there a moment though during this ordeal that stood out to you and one that may have changed your perspective as it relates to it? And how long were you hospitalized for?
So, well, in fact, 2 weeks just over 2 weeks in the hospital, but I had to do 3 months of pretty intensive rehabilitation, and then I'm still doing rehab. It takes time for the whole body to recover. Bear in mind that you basically lock down the body, move it to a machine, take it back, restart it. As the technical people in the surgery, the person handling the heart lung machine. One of them is called a heart stopper by nickname. Her job is to stop your heart beating, make sure it can be restarted. It handles your blood vascular system in the machine in a manner that keeps it healthy. That is, oxygenate your blood, etc. Put it back through the system, keep your brain and your nervous system, rest of your body working. So everything in a different way. They cool it down together significantly though. You gotta cool down quite a bit so you're not too the metabolic system is at a manageable level. But one of them is called a heart stopper. The idea is to stop your heartbeat, I said. Then when you're reawakened, you have to make to restart it properly. So it is but you're not aware of all that. The real moment of any what you might call the reality hit you was when Doc said, "Look, Dr. Chang, you know the rhythm. You do angiogram, then you do angioplasty. If not angioplasty, you do surgery." And I'm told I have to do triple bypass surgery. That reminds you of your mortality, and also as a physician begin to analyze the risk that you're getting into. But that was a single moment.
All right.
Well, I recall asking my physician if I could travel because I have a sister who is partly closer. I don't travel all the time in the ministry. Maybe that's a good thing in this ministry because a little rumor came out, of course, about my travel rights by some of the mischievous. But Ministry of National Security for the first 7 years in part were tough. I couldn't be flying out of the country and hear that there were four or five murders on the ground. Nobody could find me or catch me somewhere in the area, even if I was having a cup of coffee and relaxing and somebody dying there. So I didn't travel. I did very little traveling in those years. I think I went to 2 or 3 security conferences, and one included, and I visited some law enforcement agents in the United States, and their change of commander Southcom, but not much really. When he said I shouldn't travel because there's a risk increases, I realized it was pretty risky. So stayed put and got the surgery.
Nice.
And that went well.
How did your family respond during this time? Or who or what gave you the most strength as you recovered?
The strength, difficult to say how, faith, having built a level of confidence in the work done by the professionals, but my family was extremely supportive and some very good friends. In particular, of course, my wife, who moved to Kingston during that time, my daughter, who took over my telephone conversation. She took over the management of the life. Mr. Brown, who is like family with my conscience man, there was my brother, the training process. They all came in. And of course, my prime minister was always supportive, but his position was interesting. He advised all my colleagues not to disturb me too much, allow me to go, and they kept abreast through the doctor I mentioned before, but whether Dr. Irvin and who kept and Dr. Elimaya, who was nearby as well, or Professor. He kept in touch with what was happening daily, but didn't come to visit me unnecessarily or too much. So I wouldn't say unnecessarily, but he didn't want to visit me till I was in a position to take visitors, and he advised my colleagues just, we'll keep you informed, but don't disturb. Much of this recovery phase in this kind of surgery is rest with activity, but organized activity. The physiotherapists indicate. and allow your body to heal and little to rebuild itself. As I said, you have to literally run the engine idle for a while before you start moving. And that was it. So the support was all around very excellent. I get the messages. In fact, that was maybe what I have to call the biggest support, because I got tons of messages came to my daughter, Melissa, who was right hand. My son was there, but it was Melissa who kept the communication and told me who called, who wondered what was happening, who if they could do anything to help, and that was there. She was excellent.
National security is one of the most demanding portfolios. Do you think the pressures of public life contributed in any way to your condition?
I would say no, and that's not trying to be, that's not surface cynicism. Um, I've, I've so long been in public life, I kind of take things as a role. It's part of, well, you know me in Montego Bay. You say private, but I also try and keep my focus on things that I've been from high school to university involved in some kind of a community leadership activity. I was at Cornwall, I was involved in, I was just a great sportsman, myself, and we organized sports. We're head boy and president of student association, went to university, president of the guild, did all kind of things in the university. Get into it. Of course, when you get into national government, the emotional pressure is intense. But if you seek to understand and keep focused, it works out. I never really had it, so I never really had any serious medical symptoms. I have allergies, so I had to clear my sinus, and thank God I did that early. Not by pure coincidence, last year. Um, Very mild hypertension at one stage. They said I spotted some defect in my heart muscles. And in fact, by the time I got to do the clinical checks, which led me to surgery, I was not on any hypertensive treatment. I just had a regular 6-monthly visit with Dr. Lewis. I maintained a very disciplined diet, which is, I think, most of my friends, that's what kept me going. And I'm physically active. So I, in fact, was pretty good shape, even in the pressures. What National Secret did was change my lifestyle because it demanded, in terms of time, my social life didn't exist anymore. I'd be in the ministry for 4 or 5 days a week. Tried to make it 4 days. Back in the constituency for 3 days when you do the kind of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You're trying to do 7 days working, 4 days in Kingston, and 7 days working in the constituency in 3 days. That demand a level of attention that social life was minimal. But I don't think it affected me physically. I think the activity may have helped to keep me because, as my surgeon will say, and everybody I speak to who has experience in the field, you did well in surgery because you're fit. So,
What do you eat now?
no, again, I have a lactose intolerance, so I don't take any milky stuff. But you can eat everything in it. It's just that you have to moderate.